Hello everyone and welcome to yet another reaction video. This time we thought about doing something fun. We are actually recording this on Friday, April 1st, and we are coming after a long and difficult month of March. So we thought about, doing something fun. And because we are talking a lot about Agile and we did some videos on Jira and so on, it's time to react to one Twitter account which is called NotMyAgile. And I have with me, as usual, Adi. Hi, Adi.
Hello.
So you like the first one that you're seeing, right?
I think it's a sign of losing hope, in fact. I don't know if I like it, but, sometimes I guess you can hear these people saying that some part of me died when I heard, something. So I think that's probably the graphical image of what happens when you hear, I want to open a Jira.
Yeah, this was so funny. So in case you are listening to this instead of watching, David Music tweeted, "We are also doing Agile now. We just rolled out Jira to the whole organization." And basically it's a picture of, I don't remember the name of this actor, but he's crying on a, on a couch.
Yes. He's very upset. So I guess, yes, if we're all doing Agile now, and that's the measure of progress of agility that we just rolled out Jira. Yeah, I guess I understand. We need to empathize very deeply with this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The next one is quite funny. I am going to need you to put all work in the Agile tracking system into predefined sprints. The reports to executives require you comply to the accepted sprint standard.
Of course, of course. So this is why it's Agile, because everything is fixed and it's a standard that you have top down.
Yeah,
And yeah, it sounds perfectly, I don't know, waterfall, maybe not even waterfall, because even waterfall, I guess, it has less constraints than this. It's a very strict way of working.
it's more waterfalling than waterfall,
Oh
basically.
yes, oh yes.
So I don't even know where to start to explain how wrong this is.
Well, the executives wanted it. That's where you need to start from.
Yeah, but if you just take the text, first of all, agile tracking system, that's
Yeah, of
big red
course.
flag. Predefined sprints.
Yeah, because you need to know what to do up front. The timeline of the project, of the 2-year agile project, needs to be very well defined,
And
right?
accepted sprint standard. The question is who accepted it? I'm guessing executives.
The executives, because they know very well what to do. I guess they are all the experts in this way of working.
Yeah, so individuals in the interactions over processes and tools.
Yeah, but individuals need to, we always say that individuals need to respect certain boundaries, right? So these are the boundaries. And I guess anyone can be extremely free in these boundaries that they gave.
Yeah,
Fixed
absolutely.
sprints, agile tracking system, static standards, and then you do what you want, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You just do
It's
the work.
it's called management.
So the next one is hits directly to our line of work. Coaches, remember to use the Agile playbook and reference the team's current competency level for instructions on what to coach next.
Yeah, you shouldn't coach wherever you look, left, right, or even like that. Imagine you're a coach in an organization, and you go there and say, "What should I do next?" You don't know. I guess you need also kind of a list of tasks what to do,
Absolutely. I
right?
mean, it's a playbook.
It's a playbook, and I think it's not clear enough. What if you coach the wrong person?
Yeah, so the playbook tells you precisely how to evaluate the team and what to do next. And
Yes.
so just to put this a bit more, seriously, these are until now examples of fixed mindset in an agile context. So fixed mindset refers to the idea that things don't change and you want them to not change. This is the mindset. And it doesn't fit with agile, because in agile you accept, you actually not only tolerate, not only accept, but you embrace change.
And the problem is not necessarily with agile, but with our world, because the world isn't fixed.
Yeah,
So as much as you'd like to have these guidelines, rules, strict, I don't know, sprints or whatever, competency metrics, things change, and they change so fast. And if you do have this type of fixed approach, fixed mindset, you won't achieve much. So I think that's the problem. It's not only fixed mindset, but it's also a delusional reality,
yeah,
a different reality than the one that is in fact happening outside.
yeah. And one reason why this hits home so much is because in every transformation I've been involved, somebody asked us to write an agile playbook. It
Of
took us
course.
a while to convince them that otherwise, that it doesn't work and that you cannot actually use it. But actually, with one of my customers, when I went there, they already wrote an agile playbook that was like 100 pages long.
No, why?
And then they realized it won't work, and then they decided, oh, okay, so we'll make something that's like 3 pages, because that's as much as we can. And
I don't even know where this name of playbook comes from, because why is it about playing, or is it about the rules of the game, or what does it mean?
I I'm not sure. My assumption is that it comes from sports, basically, actually from
So
American football,
so
because
the rules
there,
of the game.
not the rules of the game, but you know that in American football they have those. I'm sorry to all my American listeners, because I don't know a lot about this.
Yeah, we don't understand that sport,
We
so
don't understand it. We don't watch it.
it's weird.
This may be a surprise to you, but
Mm-hmm.
if football is for us soccer, not American football. And um, but basically, what they have, when they have those static moments when the whole
Mm.
team stays down and they have a play, a
Mm.
strategy, and the
Okay.
coaches have a playbook that says, okay, so
Mm.
we'll use now play number 25 or something like that.
Oh, okay, but that's a
And they are
very.
already trained and so on to execute that play. So basically, you
Mm-hmm.
know who to pass the ball to and who runs and, in what directions and so on.
I see. But that's very different, and I really don't understand how you could use this analogy here, because in that situation, it's like, I don't know, you have a team and they repeat 100 times how to do this feature and that feature and the other feature, and then you say, "Come on, team, features 37. You know it. We've
Yeah,
done it 100 times last week, so let's do."
exactly. But that's what you do as a coach, right? So in this case, your team is the
Oh,
team of coaches, and you tell them, okay, so if you evaluate and you see that, I don't know, the team is on level 14, whatever level
yeah,
14 means,
this is so wrong.
then coach them on refactoring and acceptance criteria for user stories.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah,
This is the type of playbook that.
I mean, I would understand to have guidelines of, look, these are some principles, we need to have, I don't know, continuous deployment, continuous delivery, automation in some areas. I would understand to have something like this as guidelines, which in fact don't have anything to do with agile. They just have to do with, being more efficient. So you
Yeah,
could use them anywhere with everything.
what's useful in the context of the organization, in the context of the product, in the context of that particular department, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would understand to have guidelines at several levels, as you said, organizational, product, departments, or I don't know, but guidelines, not rules. And then, yeah, use them. And guidelines should be short, simple, clear, easy to apply. Maybe a few pages for the whole organization is enough.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call them a playbook, really. If that's where it comes from, it's really wrong.
Yeah, I know. Well, in honesty, this would be the kind of the playbook for coaches. What I've seen as playbooks before was more like for the teams, kind of what practices to use and so on.
But even for coaches, I mean, do coaches have the same train thing? Like, do they train together and they use?
Of course not. I mean,
We trained for this CI/CD pipeline for 100 times. Let's do it again. What do you mean?
yeah, I mean, once again, it's an example of fixed mindset.
Oh yeah.
That's okay. Next one. This is another one. I'm gonna skip over this one because it's not so interesting, but this one. Agile Review Council will not certify any team that didn't follow the published Agile learning plan. Achieving the outcomes is nice and all, but how can we know you are Agile if you didn't follow the plan?
So this Agile Review Council is really strong. I guess you also need a committee to define who's the Agile Review Council, right?
Perhaps
to define the members.
Well, so we worked with the customer and we told them that they are suffering from committitis.
Yeah, and that's the disease of having committees.
Exactly, because every decision was made by a committee, and because of this, all the how would you call it? You never knew who made the wrong decision because it was always made by the committee. Accountability was very, very thin.
The responsibility in this way is dissipated throughout the team, which is huge if you have a committee. So you have, I don't know, 30, 40 people, and we decided about this. But also it's very funny when you have this type of review council, when they don't document decisions and they start questioning themselves as after half a year, 1 year, 2 years. Did we decide that? Oh, have we? I don't remember. And then you have like 1 hour discussion about what happened and what they discussed 1 year ago. And it's completely out of, yeah.
And it's
so
also
really
funny.
nice.
Yeah, it's also funny. The second part is really funny. Achieving the outcomes is nice and all, but how do we know you're agile?
Exactly. So, okay, you achieved the outcome, but did you achieve it in the agile way or not? Because if you didn't, something should happen.
Yeah, you need to be punished. And
exactly. We do have this question sometimes, right? Are we agile? Are we agile enough?
well,
And it's really interesting.
yeah, and it's I mean, the question is, it's a good question because it opens up the possibility for conversation. But in the end, you don't care if you are agile or not. What you care is if you are delivering value fast enough for your customers. That's all that matters. And
exactly, yeah. But I would prefer this question than the other one.
And we use agile tools to get there, or to obtain this, but if you find another way, absolutely.
Yes.
This one hits on the scaling.
Oh, let's see.
We can get rid of the release train. We have a lot of people who work on release train planning. Those people are valuable, therefore the release train is valuable. We obviously can succeed without the release train.
This is kind of a strawman argument, but it's really interesting with these release trains. I don't know how you could put that in agile terms when you talk about release train. So what you want, well, at least what I think you'd like to have is a simplified organization, not a more coupled organization through release trains.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
And
and a lot of overhead because of these release trains.
yeah, and this is one of the reasons why I don't like. I think it's only one. I think Safe uses release trains, right?
Of course,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think other people implemented release trains outside of Safe,
Yeah.
and they found it interesting and useful. I don't know why, but probably they like bureaucracy. They like complex systems because they're challenging.
Well, so just to explain a bit the problem with release trains, what it shows is that you have dependencies inside your organization. And the question is, can't you reorganize those dependencies in actual cross-functional teams, in teams that can work in parallel instead of in teams that depend on one another? And there are situations, however, when you need to have a bit of separation. So for example, I worked with a client who was doing hardware and software. And the people building the hardware, even though hardware has become a lot of software nowadays. I mean, you have those components that are quite programmable, and you program the behavior in them, and you can test them and so on. But still, the cycle was a bit longer, and those people have very specific skills and so on. But they still need to be quite close to the software team, the team who was developing the firmware and the configuration software for the firmware and all that. So I understand that sometimes you have these types of dependencies, but they should be minimal. I mean, for every organization that has, I don't know, 7 teams release trains, my assumption is that you can turn this into a 2 teams release train. Well, release train is not actually release train then, it's more like a 2 teams collaboration.
Yeah, but this is just two. When we're talking about organizational release trains, that could mean tens of teams.
Yeah.
That organize in such a way that they release stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what could we say about complexity as well? Because if you release a big thing with a lot of with many developments, probably it's more probable to have issues than if you release a smaller thing.
Yeah.
So that's one big problem with release trains.
Yeah, and what do you do if, one of the teams is actually taking longer than expected, and oh boy,
They don't catch the train.
everything becomes so complicated.
Yeah, it's overhead. It's a lot of overhead.
A lot of overhead.
So simplify your organization. Don't use the current mapping to add on top of it this.
Yeah.
That's my approach.
And the thing, usually there's a resistance to reorganizing the teams, and that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Right. Because you could reorganize the teams, but you don't actually want to, and that's where Safe fits very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're doing the same thing, but in a different way.
Okay, let's see some other ones. In a large agile transformation, eliminate waste in the agile governance office by having teams transfer their own data from the agile tracking tool into spreadsheet templates for transformation status reporting.
Oh boy, I cannot even look. Oh, this is so wrong. Large agile transformation.
First,
That's first.
agile governance office.
Yeah. Teams
Second,
transfer own data. What does that mean, own data? From agile tracking.
so
Agile tracking. Oh,
you need a status report of the transformation.
but I'm very curious why they didn't add here the status report meeting, because that should be also happening.
Well,
So besides the status reporting as data.
well, yeah, you need to have a committee, obviously.
Exactly. So you need to have a committee, and need to have a meeting with the committee.
Yeah.
Oh,
So this, I can see this makes you sad.
oh, yes.
So you probably will like this. This is actually a
Mm-hmm.
contribution by Tim Ottinger, Agile author. I finished the code on the Jira, so now I just have to do the TDDs.
Of course.
If the testers in QA have written the BDDs, we should be able to release next week.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of three-letter acronyms. That's always so beautiful. And of course, TDDs happen after the code on the Jira.
Absolutely, no? How would you do
Yeah,
it otherwise? I mean,
of course. But
how can you
uh,
write tests first if you don't know what you are testing?
I need to tell you one of the, I guess, most interesting things I heard this year during an interview with someone, and that someone told me that TDD is the moment. It means that TDD is that procedure or methodology of working when two people, the tester and the programmer, receive Jira tickets in the same time from their project manager.
Absolutely.
So that's the idea. You see, this could be improved. Like I finished the code on the Jira. Now I have to do the TDD that was assigned to me by the project manager. And in the same time, the QAs need to rewrite the BDDs that were assigned to them by the project manager.
Okay. So for the people who have no idea what we are talking about, let's unpack this a little bit. It'll be hard, but let's try to do that. So BDD, the most important thing in behavior driven development, or BDD, is a conversation between the tester, a developer, and the business analyst or the product owner, depending who's, or the customer, if you can. Ideally the customer, but usually, somebody else. And the reason for this is to find those possible miscommunications, right? Because your customer or the business analyst or whoever makes, the feature and thinks about the feature, they don't think about everything. And you need this kind of meeting to figure out what it actually means. And the most important purpose is to reduce risks, to understand better, and also to figure out what's the minimum thing that you can actually do from this, right? Because you don't have to implement the whole thing. Usually, if you have this conversation, you realize that you can implement less. And so this is what BDD is, the most important part. I know that many developers think that BDD is that you write given, when, then in your tests. That is just a detail. It's not BDD.
Yeah, and that's kind of an put a possible output, but the main idea is to have those conversations.
And so the most important thing is the conversation. If you decide that the conversation was results are worth keeping, then you write them down. But this is already optional, right? You can write them down as acceptance criteria and so on. And then the third step, which is even more optional, if I can say so, then the second step is automating these
Or
findings.
part of them, yeah.
Or a part of them. So that's what BDD is. So when you say that the testers in QA need to write the BDDs next week after you've done your Jira.
And by Jira, probably they mean by the feature or the story or the task or the bug or the defect. You don't know what that is.
Yeah,
It could be anything.
absolutely. Yeah. And okay, I won't go into the TDD thing. It's even more wrong than.
Yeah. Tell us why it's wrong.
So next one, for productivity, use sprints velocity and burnout burn down chart to measure team efficiency and productivity.
Of course. So sprint velocity means that you have some measurement, right, of how much you worked.
Mm-hmm.
I want to emphasize on how much you worked.
Mm-hmm.
And then the burned up, burned down chart, this is what it shows you. So it's very interesting that if you have worked a lot, then you are very efficient and productive.
Yeah.
Right? So you use these, you could use, I don't know, hours or story points or whatever you want. I don't know, apples, to measure the how much work you've done. And if you have more apples per sprint, then means that you're more efficient, right?
Absolutely. No?
Nothing to do with how much value you delivered.
No.
So this is so important.
You saw the tweet above. It's not important. It was only important how agile you are.
Exactly. And if you respect the procedure. I mean, I'm amazed that here they didn't. It's not written that you also need the procedure on how to use velocity and how do you know how to measure efficiency?
Yeah. Well, you use Jira, of course.
Oh, there's a button there. Jira tells you.
Jira generates the report and tells you your velocity and.
Yeah, and it's good.
And then managers can enter and compare velocities between different teams and come to you and say, oh, you have velocity of 5 instead of 10 like the other team.
Exactly. So why did they deliver 50 story points and you always constantly deliver only 5? What's wrong with you?
Absolutely.
My boss really shamed me in a meeting together with the other manager. They did 45, you did 5.
Yeah.
I can't get the raise now. It's your problem. It's your fault.
Absolutely. So, yeah. Okay, so now seriously, for people who don't get this, velocities are not comparable between teams.
And velocity doesn't have much to do with efficiency and productivity.
Yeah, it's just a way to increase predictability and perhaps forecasting. And it can also help with continuous improvement, maybe sometime.
Yes.
Right.
But it's very interesting that I saw it quite soon after you start using them, that some teams like to gain on this in a way that exactly as we mentioned previously, say, okay, let's make it such that we have many story points. So we have 98 per sprint. We don't deliver much, but we have 98 story points. The others have only 5. It sounds good, but we're better.
Absolutely, yeah. And, you know, but I mean, it's a natural thing, I guess, for some people to focus on
Yeah.
that and kind of improve it. The problem is when you game the system,
Mhm.
because the usual gaming the system thing is um, so look, I have an easy way for you to increase velocity. Are you ready? Let me tell you the secret. When you estimate a sprint planning, you double all the story points for each story,
Exactly. There you go. Double the efficiency.
and you have double velocity.
You
Will,
know, it's
will
great.
that help your outcome? No. Will you
But
feel
maybe you
better
get a
about it?
raise.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe you get a raise, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's let's do one more and
Yeah. I'm actually
what to choose, what to choose.
what to choose. Yeah. At
So
the start
much.
of your enterprise agile transformation, make sure you redefine agile terms to better match your context.
Mhm.
This will expedite the transformation by helping people see that they were agile all along and nothing needs to change.
That's so great. I mean, you see so much strategy and so much wisdom in this because you know you've done your work by just showing people that they don't need to do any change, and change is painful. So there you go. Everything goes
Absolutely.
straight.
Yeah. Well, actually, I can't tell you how many hours I've wasted in meetings where like 5, 6, 7 coaches were discussing how should we name our teams, squads or teams, and how should we name our um, kind of groups of teams. Tribes? No, tribes is not a good idea. Let's call them areas or something else. And going like this for hours and figuring out how to call things, it's mind numbing.
It's beautiful. It's a very good waste of time.
And on one hand, I understand you need to kind of use a common language and explain it to everybody, particularly in the beginning of a transformation. But honestly, people, I think we can live with few simple words. Before we close, there's still one more thing that I like to show you, which is this one. I loved this one. So this is a picture. There's an account, the Practical Dev, and I'm not sure. I've seen more of these types of book covers, kind of like memes
Yeah, fake
created,
book covers.
fake book covers that come from Oh Really, not from O'Reilly,
Hmm.
but they look kind of like an O'Reilly book. And in case you're listening to this, once again, um, the tagline is Getting the Wrong Idea from That Conference Talk You Attended. And the title of the book is Solving Imaginary Scaling Issues at Scale.
Of course.
And this, of course, points to all those situations when people come even to us and say, oh, we need to scale agile. Okay. Are you able to deliver with one team, one thing in 2 weeks? No. So what do you want to scale?
This agile, I heard it at the conference. It's a good idea. I
Absolutely.
want to scale it now. We want it everywhere. Our CEO heard about it, and I heard that it gains productivity with 200% in the first year. We need this.
Yeah. All right. So I think this is a good closing for this session. I quite enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yes, it was fun.
Any conclusions, Adi?
people can get the bad ideas very easily and the good ideas very hard.
Absolutely. So, yeah, if you find this funny, make sure to follow NotMyAgile. It's both a Twitter account and a hashtag. So you can actually follow the hashtag or the Twitter account. Both are very funny. There are some other similar things like this. I hope you enjoyed this. It was fun for us. We thought about doing something more lighthearted, and I hope this gives you at least a few laughs. And if you enjoy this, please let us know. If you want us to talk about other things, if you have questions, if you have topics that you'd like us to discuss, please let us know as well through the comments or by contacting us. We have a bunch of workshops coming, including Agile Business Analysis, learning programs that we're doing online. Oh, and just quickly, we also started a section on our website, which is called Fun and Innovative. It's a place where we post things that don't fit with the serious stuff. And we have there already a few articles that perhaps you'd like to check on mosaicworks.com, mosaic with a Z, mosaicworks.com. Thank you so much for watching or for listening. We have to pay our dues to the YouTube algorithm, so please like, share, subscribe, tell other people about this, leave us a comment, and have a nice day. And until next time, remember to think, design, and work smart.